When you no longer provide the specific version of yourself that they require to remain emotionally stable, you instantly become a threat in their internal world. This does not happen because you have turned aggressive or cruel, but simply because your newfound clarity disrupts the mirror they rely on to regulate their fragile sense of self. When that mirror starts to crack, their reaction is almost never calm or reasonable. The very first shift you will notice is a heavy escalation in the exact behaviors that kept you confused in the past. Gaslighting becomes remarkably more aggressive, frequent, and inventive. Suddenly, conversations you remember with crystal clarity are rewritten right in front of you. Events you documented are completely denied, and honest feelings you expressed are reframed as wild overreactions or imagined wounds. Stay with me here, because this sudden escalation is actually not a sign that your memory is failing or that you are wrong. Instead, it is direct proof that your accuracy has become completely unbearable for them to handle. The more precisely you understand the reality of the dynamic between you, the harder they must work to destabilize your perception, because a stable mind is the one thing they cannot control through simple charm alone. Alongside this aggressive gaslighting, you will often witness a sudden surge of blame shifting and heavy projection. Behaviors that they actively engaged in themselves are suddenly thrown onto you. In their story, you become the cold manipulator, the unstable one, or the bitter person who just cannot let go of the past. This is not always a conscious or calculated deception on their part, but often reflects an intense psychological defense mechanism. They simply cannot tolerate the version of themselves that you are now seeing, so they transplant those uncomfortable traits onto you. It is an unconscious attempt to protect their own internal image by making you carry the heavy weight of everything they refuse to acknowledge in themselves. Right after this, the dramatic performance of victimhood begins, and it is easily one of the most disorienting stages of the entire experience. The person who actively hurt you suddenly begins to speak as if they are the one being destroyed. They might cry, speak in a soft, wounded tone, or recount their suffering in exhaustive detail. They will invoke their stressful life, their fragile mental health, or their deep fear of losing you precisely when you are closing in on holding them accountable. If playing the victim fails to get the result they want, intimidation quickly rises in its place. This can be completely overt, using raised voices, aggressive posturing, and direct threats. Or it can be quiet and subtle through cold stares, long silences, and a sudden withdrawal of warmth meant to punish you. The silent treatment, in particular, is a devastating emotional tool because it activates your natural fear of abandonment while denying you any chance to resolve the issue. It is intentional emotional pressure designed to make you doubt your decision to see things clearly. And then, almost paradoxically, the warmth suddenly returns. This is the stage that leaves so many survivors feeling utterly confused. After the rage, the cold cruelty, and the silence, they suddenly become the most loving and attentive version of themselves you have ever seen. This behavior pulls you straight back into the vacuum of the relationship through extravagant compliments, emotional apologies, and convincing promises of real change. Unpredictable rewards delivered after long periods of pain create powerful emotional bonds, which is exactly why trauma bonds feel almost physical, even after your mind understands what is happening. Understanding this dynamic is essential because survivors often blame themselves for struggling to leave even after identifying the truth. They wonder why intellectual clarity is not enough to set them free, or why their heart still aches for someone their mind knows is harmful. The answer is not that you are weak, but that your nervous system has been shaped by long periods of unpredictable emotional patterns. Your body learned to associate relief, hope, and connection with the very person who caused your distress, and healing requires a slow, patient retraining of your physical responses. Meanwhile, outside of your private interactions, intense image management begins. They become deeply invested in how they appear to mutual friends, family members, co-workers, and online audiences. You will notice subtle storytelling that paints them as the reasonable partner and you as the difficult one, which can escalate into a full smear campaign. The purpose is to control the narrative before your version of events takes root, making your clarity easier for others to dismiss. If you are finding value in these insights right now, make sure you hit that subscribe button to keep building the kind of inner strength that manipulation can never touch. This moment often brings a profound sense of isolation as people you trusted begin treating you differently. But your reality does not require universal agreement to remain valid. Your personal healing does not depend on convincing anyone else of the truth, but on knowing what you know and living in alignment with that understanding. Recognizing the manipulation rarely brings pure relief at first, but rather a strange mix of clarity, grief, confusion, and disorientation. Your mind is reorganizing itself around a truth that was previously unsafe to see. And clarity feels frightening because it requires you to grieve the relationship, the future you imagined, and the person you thought they were. You must also grieve the energy you invested and the parts of yourself you suppressed just to keep the dynamic functioning. Underneath that grief lies a surge of self-doubt, because prolonged gaslighting teaches your system to distrust its own signals. Healing is not about forcing immediate certainty, but about gently choosing to believe yourself in small moments until self-trust becomes a natural inner pattern. Documenting your reality by writing down events and saving messages builds an external anchor that protects your memory from being rewritten. As you continue healing, you will start noticing the crucial difference between genuine accountability and a manipulative performance. Real accountability is consistent, patient, and shown through changed behavior over time without demanding quick forgiveness. Whereas manipulative performance is urgent, intense, and uses emotional vulnerability as a strategic tool to reopen doors. You will also recognize cycles of temporary change where they behave differently for weeks or months before old patterns return once access is secured. Protecting your nervous system through slow breathing, grounding, gentle movement, and proper rest is a necessary survival skill during this time. Boundaries become your quiet strength, representing clear statements of what you will participate in, held consistently regardless of how the other person reacts. Avoiding unnecessary confrontations is equally important because explaining yourself to prove your point rarely brings closure when dealing with someone who uses your words as fuel for more distortion. Reclaiming your identity means slowly asking yourself what you actually enjoy, believe, and need, rebuilding the inner landscape that was rearranged without your consent. Self-validation forms the core of this restoration as you stop outsourcing your reality to people who distort it, relying instead on a small, safe support system that truly understands your experience. Over time, your clarity naturally develops into quiet wisdom rather than hypervigilance, allowing you to spot red flags early and sense when someone's actions do not match their words. If this guidance is helping you find your footing today, take a second to subscribe and stay connected to this community for ongoing support on your journey. Healing from this level of manipulation is not a single revelation, but a long, layered process of returning to yourself. The moment you truly understood the manipulation was the exact moment its grip began to loosen, regardless of how long it takes your heart to catch up. They may continue to escalate, perform, disappear, or rewrite the past, but none of those actions define your recovery. Your true transformation happens internally as you choose your own perception, honor your lived experience, and build a solid foundation of reality where you can finally breathe freely and live in total alignment with your truth. This steady return to your own internal authority is where true emotional freedom quietly takes root. When you stop looking to the external world for validation, the constant noise of outside opinions begins to settle. The urgent need to correct every false narrative or clear your name in front of people who are determined to misunderstand you simply evaporates. You begin to realize that trying to convince someone of your pain when they were the one who intentionally inflicted it is a complete drain of your sacred energy. Instead, you direct that energy back into your own life, nurturing the parts of yourself that were neglected for far too long. Every time you refrain from engaging in a pointlessly defensive argument, you are making a powerful choice for your own peace. You are teaching your nervous system that you are safe, that you are in control, and that you no longer need to fight for your right to exist. This internal pivot shifts you out of a constant survival response and brings you back into a state of deep, grounded living. As you step further down this path, you will notice a fundamental change in how you handle your daily decisions. When you were immersed in manipulation, even the smallest choices were likely filtered through the lens of how someone else would react. You learned to constantly scan the room, anticipate unpredictable moods, and adjust your tone just to keep the peace. Unlearning that hypervigilance takes time, but every small choice you make based purely on your own authentic desires helps rebuild your lost independence. Deciding what to eat, how to spend your free hours, or who to invite into your space without seeking approval is an act of reclaiming your sovereignty. You are rebuilding the bridge between your conscious mind and your natural intuition, a connection that was intentionally weakened over months or years of subtle control. Trusting your gut again might feel scary at first, but with each gentle choice, that inner muscle grows stronger, making it virtually impossible for anyone to manipulate you in the same way ever again. The shift in your personal relationships will become one of the most visible indicators of your internal growth. As your self-awareness sharpens, your tolerance for one-sided dynamics, passive-aggressive communication, and conditional affection drops to zero. You will naturally start seeking out connections that feel soft, consistent, and reciprocal, where you do not have to perform or minimize yourself to be accepted. If you are finding clarity in these words today, make sure to hit that subscribe button to keep anchoring yourself in content that supports your personal transformation. The people who genuinely belong in your life will welcome your boundaries, respect your space, and value your authentic voice without demanding that you change to fit their needs. Losing people who are only attached to your compliance is not a real loss, but a vital clearing of space for healthy, safe, and truly supportive relationships to enter your life. Eventually, you reach a point where looking back at the past no longer triggers the same sharp, overwhelming pain. The memories remain, but the heavy emotional charge attached to them slowly dissolves into calm, integrated wisdom. You begin to see the entire experience not as a permanent personal failure, but as a grueling lesson that forced you to build an unbreakable relationship with yourself. The grief that once felt completely endless gives way to a profound sense of quiet pride for having the courage to face uncomfortable truths and walk away from an unsafe dynamic. You realize that your capacity to love deeply and show real empathy was never a weakness, but your greatest strength, one that now belongs entirely to you and those who earned your trust. You are no longer navigating life in defense mode, constantly bracing for the next emotional blow. You are standing firmly on a solid foundation of your own truth, breathing freely, and stepping into a future that belongs completely to you.